Today I want to talk to you about installing Photoprism on the Synology NAS. Now, before I get into this, I want to say why. Why would I care about a tool like Photoprism? There's loads of photo management tools out there. Why do I want to put this on my NAS? First and foremost, I want to have a photo management application that doesn't live in the cloud. I want it to be local, all my photos here. I am not allergic to iCloud or other things, but I do want one place where all of my photos are available in my house for my family from multiple sources. My wife has her own iCloud photos. I have Lightroom. I have my iCloud photos. I have scans from many years ago that are in other places. I just want one single place where pictures can live and be accessible by year and month without any installation. I don't want to have to create a username and password for grandma. If you are connected to my home network, you can see the photos. That's what I want. All local. I also want it to be full-featured. I want a modern look. I want it to be interactive. I want it to be easy to manage. I want it to have a little bit of AI, all the stuff we expect these days, face recognition, locations, the metadata. I want it to be able to parse that. I want an application that doesn't swallow my photos and squirrel them away. I'm looking at you, iPhoto and Apple Photos and all those things of its ilk. Let me own the folder where the photos go. I don't want to have my photos disappear and be renamed and things like that. I want an application that lets me rearrange the source folder at any time and have the application heal itself if I move things around. So if we've changed, we put notes or something on a photo, comments, and favorited certain photos and given it stars or whatever, I want all of that to magically heal so that even if I move the photos around and put them in other folders, the application finds these things. So this tool, Photoprism, does all these things in spades. It's great. I am a great fan of Photoprism. Now, Synology provides photo applications. Why don't I just use what Synology gives us? Well, they actually had in DSM-6, they provided two tools for photos. One was called Moments and the other was called Photo Station. Moments was more for casual users and Photo Station was for advanced photographers. And I really liked Moments. Moments ticked all the boxes for me. It really was a lightweight solution for sharing photos within my family. And then when Synology upgraded DSM from version 6 to version 7, they decided to combine Moments and Photo Station into one app they called Photos. These kind of things where they combine two things. It's like an Apple sort of thing. You remember when Apple took iPhoto and Aperture and gave us photos and said, well, it's going to be the greatest thing. It'll do everything you need. And it didn't really match the professional crowd. It didn't really match the amateur crowd nearly as much as these two apps did, but it was easier for them to maintain. And I didn't want to go through that again. So I said, let me find something that's not owned by Synology, something that's really made by people that do photo software and something that does exactly what I want. I want to be able to install this easily. And I do want to be able to upgrade to DSM-7. Synology kind of forced things when they announced they were going to de-support DSM-6 in October of 2024. Right now it's February of 2024, so I have no choice. Let's see what it takes to do this installation. It's actually pretty lightweight. Photoprism is deployed using Docker. And if you're not familiar with Docker, it is something like virtual machines, but it is even lighter weight than virtual machines. Docker is really nice, and a proper installation of Photoprism, you're going to have two Docker containers, one for a database, MariaDB, and the other for Photoprism. You can do it all by hand in Docker, and I did that in preparation for this video, but there's a better way, and that's using Docker Compose. Docker Compose is an orchestration tool that will allow you to manage Docker installations a whole lot easier than just doing the individual installations themselves. Let me show you their Getting Started webpage. And this is their instructions for using Docker Compose. And that can be found at docs.photoprism.app/getting-started/docker-compose. You want to download a YAML file, tweak a few settings in that, and then launch it using Docker Compose. That's it. So this is what we need to do. Number one, we're going to need command line access to our Synology NAS. This is something I'm not going to cover here. This is an exercise for the viewer. Just Google up Synology DSM SSH. You'll need an account that's in the admin group for this. Then we need to install Docker. This is available as a Synology package, and it takes just a couple minutes to install. It's an optional step. We're going to install TextEdit to make it easier to modify the files. You can use VI if you want. People like to use Nano when they edit files on the command line. However, Synology doesn't have Nano by default. We would have to install yet another package. I'd rather just install TextEdit, and you'll see why it does syntax highlighting and stuff. We're going to create some folders in our Synology NAS where Photoprism and MariaDB are going to live, where they're going to store their state. Then we're going to download this single YAML file. We'll tweak it with TextEdit. Then we're going to use a command to launch Photoprism. And that's it. Let me give you a quick tour of Photoprism and the reason why I like it. So this is what it looks like when you first open it up. These are all of these stock photos that I imported, about 80 or so of them. And notice how it shows all the metadata. In fact, we'll go back here to the Synology NAS. You'll see that I loaded these in using folder trees that had years and months in them. And none of these photos actually has a year or a month in its metadata, but that automatically was done. You notice how it says March 1st, 2023 or July 1st, 2022. That actually got added by Photoprism just by looking at the path. So this gives you a lot of flexibility in getting your photos to have reasonable dates. Other things I like about this, in search, you can just scroll through. You can change the view, go up here, change it to a little bit of a flatter view, or you can just change it to little tiny thumbnails. And this is a little bit more useful when you're scrolling through thousands of photos. In my other, in my regular home Photoprism, I have about 30,000. Let me go back to the original one. Now we have some other features in here. We can go to people, and just like other applications, we can pick faces and assign them names. I don't know anybody's name here, so we're going to go in here, and I'm just going to call this lady Helena because that comes from probably the photographer. So we'll go here and click on edit, go to people, and I'm going to call her Helena. Enter, and notice now we go to people and we see Helena contains 2 pictures, and there they are. We also can see the same thing for places, which again, because these were stock photos, we don't have any locations for them. We can assign those. We can look at the calendar, and this shows us the months that the photos were taken. And even though in Synology, you'll see that there's 2 July of 2022 folders, this section here simply has 1 July 2022 that has all the pictures in it. We also will have labels, which are automatically generated. Notice though, like a lot of these kinds of tools, this AI generated grouping kind of stuff works sometimes and sometimes doesn't. Dog worked just fine. This lady is not working at a computer. She's working at a sewing machine. So sometimes it doesn't work. And if you look at folders, this will actually show you the underlying photos grouped by year and month. And you'll see more test photos and then test photos. So this is really all there is to it. You can share this with grandma or anybody else in your house, and they can go in and look at the pictures, which is pretty neat, and just flip through them. You can go and favorite some. I can go and say, maybe I like fishing, so I'm going to go here. and click fishing and a bit more fishing. Maybe I like music. So here we are. And there was a guy playing a guitar. There we go. So if I go into favorites, there are those 4. And your other family members can do the same. And they will all show up in here as favorites. Now, if I go into Synology and move these folders around, then I do an update. Photoprism is smart enough to find that you moved stuff, but didn't change it. And so all of your favorites are going to remain still favorited. Any comments that were added will remain there. When you load the photos, you have 2 different approaches for this. One of them is indexing, which is what I do. You're indexing that folder, that originals folder. So you keep putting stuff manually in this originals folder. You go and you click the indexing tab and you click start. And that will index anything new, and you have some options here. There is the ability to do an import. And this is the kind of thing that renames your photos and squirrels them away internally in a structure that you don't need to ever see. I don't like that, but you can do that if you want, and it has a lot of benefits as far as identifying duplicates and things like that. I stick with just the regular index method. It's a really nice tool. It's fast and it's free, and you do not need to have a user account login or anything to use it within your home. If you want to use Photoprism on the internet and expose your home photos to the internet, that's outside of the scope of this video, but it would involve, you definitely would want to have user accounts at that point. You certainly would want to use something like Cloudflare on the outside to hide your home IP address, and you would want to have all kinds of other things set up. Again, that's not what I wanted to do. I just wanted to have a really nice photos application in the house that all my family members could see. And Photoprism does that quite well. Let's get started by installing Docker in our Synology NAS. Docker is really cool. It is a way to install software in a fairly painless way and have that software running with just the most lightweight of footprint on your machine. For those of you who are not that familiar with Docker, I will show you exactly how to do this installation. First, we're going to start by going to our package center, and we search for Docker. And there it is. Click install. It's going to take a little bit to do this. It's going to download some stuff, and it will create a folder on your file station. And that folder is where all your Docker stuff is going to live. We will create some folders inside that, but all you need to know is that it made this folder here called Docker, and things that go in there will be for supporting Docker. We'll do an extra step here that is optional. I'm going to do it because I want to have another text editor available. I want to have a text editor that we can use inside Synology. So I've searched for text editor, and we're installing that. This will be a little bit nicer than telling everybody to use VI. Okay, text editor is there. We have Docker and text editor, both available. We are going to go in and create some folders to get started. We go to, we're in the Docker folder. See, it's empty. And we're going to create a folder called Photoprism. Within Photoprism, we are going to make a folder for our database. This is where MariaDB is going to keep its stuff. We're going to create a folder for our original photos. And Photoprism does not own this. We own it. We will put photos in there, and Photoprism will see them, but Photoprism will never modify the photos that we put in this originals folder. Finally, we're going to create a third folder called Storage. And that is where Photoprism is going to keep its own configuration. At this point, we need to open up a terminal window and go to the Synology command line. So I open up a terminal window, SSH, and it has to be an admin account, an account with admin privileges. Admin at synology.local, which is where mine is. So there I am. Now I'm going to go to, I have to find this folder. And in my case, /volumes1, I think that's what it is, or volume 1 /docker/photoprism. There we are. And we see the folders that we made. We are going to do a wget to get the Docker Compose file for Photoprism. And we do that. And now we've got our Docker Compose file. We can see it here. But what I'm going to have you do is come back over to File Station and click the little refresh, and you notice this file has appeared. So we have Docker Compose.yml in this folder. Now let's go to Start Text Editor. We're going to open Docker Compose.yml. It automatically detects it as a YAML, and it highlights everything nicely. We're going to change just a few things. Most of this we can ignore. At a later date, you can go in here and modify things to your heart's content. But for the most part, because I'm setting this up to be wide open in my home network, I'm going to skip all the stuff about admin, user admin password, about TLS. None of that applies. What we will do is we'll say our authorization mode, or authentication mode that is, we're changing it from password to public. That means everybody is connected as admin. You can do whatever you want when you go in. There is no need to manage users. I do not want to get in the business of managing users in my house. We also need to make one small change here. And notice what they have here. This is actually for like if you have in your home directory a pictures folder or something. What we're going to do is we're going to change it to ./originals. And so what this is doing is it's saying the thing on the left is the real file system thing, colon, the thing on the right is an identifier that the Docker image is using internally. So internally they are looking for Photoprism originals. We are calling this ./originals. The translation of the dot is the current directory. We are in volume 1 Docker Photoprism. So that's actually going to be referring to this folder right here, the originals one. Storage is already set up the correct way, and we are done. There's other things you can do here. Again, you could be changing passwords, but we don't really need to worry about that now. So we save this, close, and we're ready to go. I'll go over here. I'm going to type docker-compose space up space -d for daemon or detach. What this is going to do is it's going to have Docker Compose parse this YAML file and go in there and start up a couple containers, one for MariaDB, one for Photoprism. Fiddlesticks. This doesn't work because we didn't do it with sudo. So now we have to type sudo, sudo, docker-compose up-d. Put in the password, and there we are. Notice now it's created this virtual network that both of these containers are going to be using. We're downloading all the requirements from MariaDB, and then we're also going to download everything we need for Photoprism. If we go over here and we go to Docker, we should see that we have no containers. But as this process on the left continues, we'll get to the point where all the different resources have been downloaded, the image files for Docker, and we'll see 2 Docker containers come to life. And there's our containers. We've got MariaDB running and Photoprism is running. So without having gone in and configured everything for these containers, it made them for us. Really cool. We would have had to have gone in and told it which image to use and configured each one of them to point to these folders. But by using Docker Compose, we were able to just do that using the file that they provided to us and make a couple tweaks to it, and everything's working. And let me show you what's happening with these folders. Originals is still empty because remember, we own that. We'll put some photos in there in a minute. Database contains things that MariaDB uses. So this is the MariaDB database. Even though it says MySQL, never forget, MariaDB's lineage comes from MySQL. Storage, this is where everything for Photoprism lives. So if you want to back things up, this would be a wise thing to back up. Storage and database. Originals, the way I look at this should not be the official repository of photos. I will put photos here that I copy from somewhere else. And that's a safe way, in my opinion. So let's take a look at what's going on with these. I will strongly recommend you follow this step. Double-click the Photoprism container and go to Log. This is where you will see any problem, such as failed to log into MariaDB because the password was wrong, or other silly things like that. And in this case, everything's looking good. What I will point out is the original installation of Photoprism does a lot of these things, these migrate rows. And this takes about 5 minutes. So we'll just keep refreshing and eventually we will see us. In fact, I'm going to click over to Terminal and this is going to show us the same thing. This is standard output from the running container. Photoprism is still alive. It's actually doing things in the background. It takes a little while. This particular processor that we have and this server setup that we have is not the fastest, so it does take a certain amount of time to do things. And what we're looking for is a line saying that it is started or listening. Look at that. This is what we wanted. So the default port for Photoprism is 2342. And I know that my IP address to this Synology box is 192.168.10.10. So I will do a new tab and I will do 192.168.10.10. And now we have Photoprism open. And it's saying no pictures found. Of course there's no pictures. Let's go back to our Synology NAS. So everything is up and running. We can close that window. We have MariaDB. Let's check that one out. Let's look at the log. There it is. MariaDB must be happy. We can shut these containers down, start them up here if we wish. We don't need to do anything else over here if we wish. At some point I'm going to make another change and that is going to make it so they automatically restart. But we'll leave that. So let's go here. I'm going to go down to Photos, Test Photos, where I have some stock photos that I'm going to use for testing. We go to our originals. I'm going to paste these. Now I go back to Photoprism. And we go to the film roll here, which that's kind of a antiquated image for young folks. And I'm just going to click Start. And it is going to index those files. And there you go. You can see it's finding files that we put in there. This is going to take a while. You notice how it's up to 50? In this search, this shows you pretty much how many photos you have total. If you've got 30,000 photos like I do, you start this thing running and you forget about it and come back to it over the next few days and see how it's doing. And you'll find that it's doing just fine. This can handle tens of thousands of photos without a problem. Just let it run. And it's not running on your PC, so you just let it run on your Synology box in the corner and everything will be good. What it's doing is it's indexing the photos and it's creating thumbnails. And it's doing its AI to put it in the proper folders. And we're all done. So if I click search, there we are. These are all the stock photos. So there's an easy way to install Photoprism on Synology and get things set up so you can have a really nice photo management application running inside your home that all your family members can see. Thank you for watching.